Hey everyone, welcome back to the lab. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to get good at coding. So I get asked this question a lot in various forms. How do I get good at coding? And my answer is simple: code. Now this may seem overly contrived, but it's not. And while it's simple advice, it's not particularly easy to carry out. So in this post, I'm going to explain why this is the only true answer to this question and provide some recommendations to make starting a little bit easier. You must do the thing. When people ask this question, it's typically in search of an easy solution or hack that will get them their results faster. This is what a lot of online content, courses, and experts sell, so it's what a lot of people have come to expect. The thing is that solution or hack is never really true. By and large, all of productivity, and therefore, all these contents, courses, experts, things, is about how to optimize your focus, time, and energy to better do the thing. This might seem like a super sweeping generalization to say that all courses are like not selling the hack or whatever, but if you don't agree with this, I would really recommend go take 10 courses, go do the 10 online courses for whatever, summarize them, what they learned from those things, and then tell me what they're attempting to do and how. My hypothesis is that it's basically all this in one form or another, and at the end of the day, you still got to do. But yeah, let me know if you disagree. I'd be curious to hear, other points of view on this. At the end of the day, you still need to do the thing in order to do and improve at the thing. We can improve our systems around doing the thing as much as we want. We can be super optimized. We can do all the crazy latest tactics, but at the end of the day, it's all just ways to do the thing a little bit better. So we still got to do the thing. And so an example of this is you could go to infinite classes, read infinite books, watch infinite tutorials on the thing. But if you never actually do the thing, then you likely aren't good at the thing. And so let's go over some examples here. So let's say you're a painter who just goes to classes but never paints. You're going to college classes, you're going to classes in the city from the best experts. This doesn't really make you a painter. It's really just you're an art enthusiast, you're an art historian, maybe you're an art hobbyist, but you're not really a painter because you're not painting. Another example is a potter who learns a lot. You go to all the workshops, you listen to the latest podcasts, but you never actually make pots. This means you might be a material expert, you might be a potting enthusiast, you might be a potting critic, but you're not actually a potter. You're not someone who's making pots. And in the same vein, let's say you're a photographer who you look at a lot of photos, you get the latest photo books, you're watching the latest Adobe tips and tricks on Photoshop or whatever, but you're never taking photos. This might make you a photo critic, you might be a good photo editor, you might be a photo enthusiast, but you're not actually a photographer because you're not taking photos. And so what I see a lot when people are trying to learn to code or trying to learn to honestly do anything, we'll focus on coding because that's where my experience is they get into this loop where they take a course and then they read a book and then they watch some YouTube videos and then they keep doing that. And so they end up in this infinite learning loop. And so they learn the one thing and they're like, wow, that was good. Maybe they were even copying down what the person was doing in the tutorial, but they're really just learning. They're really just following along what the person's doing. So they learn once and they're like, that's cool. Now I'm going to learn another thing. And they go do the next thing. And they're like, oh, now I'm going to learn another thing because I got that. But the problem with this is that you never actually cemented that knowledge. And so each of these is not actually building on each other. It's actually you have bad focus. You're just focusing on one thing, then the next, but you never actually finished any of these things. You never actually proved that you could do any of these things. And so at the end of the day, you go through this loop, you spend all this time, you feel like you're making progress, but at the end of the day, you've done the thing 0 times, which means you not only are not good at the thing, but you've actually never done the thing. So you can't even say that you're someone who does the thing. You just didn't do it. It's buying a bunch of workout things and talking to all the biggest workout experts. But then at the end of the year, you've taken 100 workout courses, but you never actually went to the gym and did a workout. You're not someone who works out, you just never worked out. And so what we're going to talk about is what is the alternative approach? What is actually the thing you got to do? And it's really just doing the thing. And here you're going to be actually doing the thing, and then you'll learn a little bit every time you do it, and then you'll do the thing, and then you'll learn a little bit. And this is how you actually make progress. You're actually learning, you're actually becoming someone who is doing that thing and therefore improving at that thing. I know this seems super elementary, but seriously, I see this go wrong all the time. Okay, so what would you have to do to be someone who does or improves at the thing? And the answer, again, is very simple, though maybe not easy. You have to do the thing. And so a painter is someone who paints, so they need to be painting. A potter is someone who pots, so they need to be someone who is making pots. A photographer is someone who takes photos, so they need to be going out and actually taking photos. So by extension, if you want to code and get good at coding, you must actually. Now, just doing the thing will get you started, but if you blindly do the thing, then it's true, you may not make as much progress as you could. Though most studies show that just doing the thing is way more impactful than any other approach out there. So, just focus on doing the thing first, and then we'll talk about a little bit ways to get more out of it. So a slightly better approach that's, not too complicated and won't get in the way is to do the thing with mindfulness and intent. And at its core, all this means is doing the thing and trying to get a little bit better each time. So you want to do the thing, and then we also want to try to learn one thing or get 1% better each time. And so that's this version here where, we're doing the thing, but we're also learning as we go. And now seeing this, we should, come to realize that it's not going to be like, I just read this thing and I'm automatically an expert, because there's just no solution or hack that actually does it. And so the heuristic that I like to tell people is that you just got to do it 100 times and see where that gets you. So if you're a painter and you want to get good at painting, you want to start painting, paint 100 paintings and see where you get. If you're a potter, you want to make pots or clay, whatever's, make 100 pots and see where you get. If you're a photographer and you want to get good at photography, you might take 100 photos. This is a good example of one where maybe the unit isn't quite what you think it is. So here I would probably say not 100 photos, because I could take 100 photos sitting here and not get good. You probably need to go on 100 photo shoots. So 100 instances of doing the thing that you're trying to do and get good at from beginning to end. That's really what we're trying to do. And I'll admit, this probably takes a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. This is not easy to do, but it is the thing you must do to get what you want. And even after doing all this, putting all this time and effort in, this probably won't make you an expert in the thing. And the reason is that the true experts have done this more than 100 times. They've probably done this 10,000 times, and they're probably continuing to do the thing, and that's what makes them an expert in that thing. So you're not going to catch up overnight, but you're at least starting the journey versus just learning and doing the thing 0 times, in which you'd never catch up. But actually doing the thing will make you infinitely better at this thing than when you started. I really think if you do the thing 100 times, you commit to doing that 100 times and learning, you will look back and be like, wow, I have improved so much. An example of this is when I started YouTube, I sucked at YouTube. I wouldn't even say I'm an expert now at YouTube, but my first videos are so cringy, it hurts for me to go watch them. But if you look by my 100th video, it's much more comfortable for me, and I can watch them and I'm like, it's not the best video, but it's pretty good. It's way better than I was at the start. And if I'd just taken courses on YouTube, making videos and stuff, I never would have actually started, and I would never have gotten to that 100th video where I was actually better than my first. Okay, so once you're done with your first 100 iterations, you can then think about whether this is the direction you want to go in and course correct from there. And I like to think of it in this way for 2 reasons. One, you need to get started to know kind of what's involved in the thing. And I think a lot of people, they want to be the thing, but they're not willing to put the work in. And so I think the first thing you gotta do is just put the 100 iterations in, and then you can think back and it's do I actually want to be a, athlete, photographer, potter, whatever? Do I actually want to do that? And sometimes it's no, and that's actually a great learning, because now it's not this looming dream over your head that you're chasing forever. So that's the first part. The second part is, now that you've kind of gotten a base of what is involved and you kind of understand, now you can kind of course correct to, why am I doing this and what is closer to that thing that I want to do, so that the next 100 iterations gets you even closer, even better to that dream or that goal. And so some examples of this are if you're a painter, you can ask yourself, do you want your paintings to be more realistic? Do you want them more abstract? Or do you want them to be more fantastical? And you can focus your next 100 iterations on working on that. And maybe you don't do a full 100 iterations on that, but at least committing to doing the work will get you momentum to actually understand that yourself faster than just trying to think it out and not actually ever practicing it or trying it. Similarly, if you're a potter, you can think about do you want to make bowls, or do you want to make plates or jugs, or maybe there's different kinds of clay or materials. I don't know what they do. What do you want to get better at? Where do you want to move your practice? And then focus the next 100 iterations on getting closer there. Similarly, for a photographer, you might want to do more street photography, or maybe you want to get into portraits, or maybe you want to get into wedding photos or landscapes. Focus your next 100 iterations on that. And if you do that, we've kind of built both like the micro, like concrete steps you need to take and the kind of like macro strategy for how to do this on any domain. So you got to do the thing, you got to think about what you want to do with the thing, which direction do you want to go, and then you rinse and repeat, and that is like literally how you get good at things. Okay, the final thing that I see that where people kind of go wrong is this idea of like, what if I get stuck? Like I don't know enough to get started, so I need to do the learning before I can get started. And the reason this is a problem is because often this is the procrastination technique that people use to get into that infinite learning loop, and they never get out of it. And so here's my recommendation for this, because this will happen, but there's a way that we can prevent you from entering that infinite loop. And so there are times when you may overextend. Perhaps this cycle you tried to do a new version of the thing, but underestimated the complexity or maybe what was involved. Or maybe you're just completely overwhelmed and not sure where to start. So I see that this overwhelmed thing, like the first time you're doing the thing, it's so hard. You have no momentum. You have no idea how to do the thing. You don't know if you're doing it right. And so getting started is super, super hard. The next one I see is when you're trying to up level, like you've hit a plateau and now you're trying to do something harder. And you again feel that idea of like, oh, I don't know enough yet. And so you're blocking yourself. Even if you could maybe have done it, you're kind of feel blocked. You know, like I need something to help me here. And I'll let you know that that is okay. You actually learned something by kind of understanding that something was blocking you or feeling this fear, thinking something's blocking you. And that too is progress. And here's why. So in particular, what we've learned is that a particular thing, a very specific thing, a scoped thing, is blocking us from making progress. Now we can go do some learning specifically scoped to resolving that one thing. So if you're getting started coding, maybe it's like, I don't know what editor to use. If you're doing photography, maybe it's like, I don't know what camera I should get. Something like that. That's like very specific thing that is actually solvable. We have I don't know the answer now. I do have a decent answer now. And so we can go learn that specific thing. And then once we've learned that thing, we've checked that box, we have a decent answer, we can quickly go back to doing the thing based on that answer. And I think the scoping of learning is particularly important so we don't get into the infinite learning loop we mentioned earlier. At the end of the day, we actually need to do the thing to get good at the thing. So we need to focus on doing the thing, not procrastinating by doing other things, which is honestly, like this is the most common way I see people when they're trying to learn things. They don't actually learn because they're basically procrastinating doing the thing that's necessary to learn. And so my recommendation here is basically like when you find that something is blocking you, to like really make a specific thing of what you need to know to unblock yourself. And sometimes it's a couple of things. So like list them down specifically, because then you can look at them and decide like, is this actually blocking me? Usually it's not. Usually it's just a procrastinating mechanism. But then if it is, you can go out, learn just that thing. And then once you've checked all your boxes, like keep going. Okay. Now we got to get good at coding. So hopefully by now it's clear that to get good at the thing, we must do the thing. Learning to do a thing well is never done by diving into learning resources. That's almost always a distraction and a very, very, very attractive procrastination tactic, because it's very easy to just sit there and watch your YouTube, listen to your podcast, read your book, and feel like you're making progress. But it's easy because you're not actually doing any work. Like there's nothing actually happening there, you know? So we must do the thing. So to get good at code, we must code. All right, so our goal is to do the thing, which is to code. And so my heuristic about this is you should aim to do this 100 times. Exactly the same we talked about for photography and being a potter, painting, things like that. You got to do the code 100 times. Now, you won't be an expert after this, but you will be far better than when you started, which again is far better than spinning your wheels in the infinite learning loop. And so I would recommend trying to write 100 programs. And so here's some examples of what these could be, though it really doesn't matter in your first 100 what it is. You just need to get coding. You need to do the thing. So some examples I've done are like making little websites. You could build a personal site. Like this is my personal site that I built myself. Built several versions of this over the years. A little fun website. I've linked a version of that here. Maybe an info site for a domain you're into. So you want to play around with like different formats or different ways of displaying information. All great ways to get good at coding and be interested in it. You might also just solve little problems. So things like LeetCode, Codecademy, Advent of Code, all sorts of little things where you can kind of like get into a web browser, you can open up a little problem, you can code in the thing and it runs it for you, are great because you don't have to set up any environments. Code those things. Each of those can be like a little program. If you're into building video games, you could do like a little web game, you could build a little mobile game, a game that like runs on your command line, like any of those are good. And make little arts, you could do music visualizations or generative collages or screensavers. These are all examples of little projects that over the years I've done myself that I think are relatively easy to get into and interesting. But code, just like other practices, requires practice, but doesn't matter so much what you're coding in the early stages. You really just got to find whatever's interesting to you, and try to just get some stuff out so you can start this iterative cycle. It just matters that you're coding. Now, once you've started coding, you can start being more mindful and intentional about how you are progressing. So you could think about, like, why do you want to learn coding? Maybe it's for a job, maybe it's for a specific skill, maybe you have a hobby that you think coding would help with. And then ask, like, what do you hope to do with this skill? Maybe you want to make video games at like one of these big publishers. Maybe you want to join a company, like a big tech company. Maybe you want to build your own company, be a founder. You want to be a technical founder or something like that. And then from there, you can start directing your next cycles towards projects that are like more related to that. So, if you're looking for a job, you might focus on full stack websites, which is like what most companies are, if we're honest, and do some leak code, which you're going to need to do for kind of like software engineering interviews. And here's my guide on that here. Maybe you want to build video games. A lot of people get into coding because they want to build video games. This is part of the reason why I got into it like years ago. So you might dive into making little video games. You might start with like tic-tac-toe and Snake, and then you might get into like Godot or Unity or things like that to build more 2D and 3D games and stuff like that. You can kind of start to, direct your path. And if you just want to do this as a hobby, it's just like a side skill, do whatever, whatever interests you. Like, it doesn't matter. You just got to be like doing the thing, which is coding. And so I want you to just remember that, like, you got to try to learn one thing and make it 1% better every time. And if you do that, then after your 100 iterations, you're going to be much better. And then the next 100, you're going to be much better than that. And that's how we're stacking actual learning, actual progress onto each other, and how we actually get good at coding over time. And yeah, we do this 100 times, you'll be much better than before, and then we just keep doing it again. And I'll call out that this is literally what I do for every project, every skill I have, every domain, and I call it the creation cycle. And this is kind of how I think of progress, of like how basically every project works, of how every cycle and iteration should go. And it's basically like, think about what you want to do, you go actually do the thing, and then you come back and you learn from it. What was the one thing I learned? What's one thing I could make it better next time? And then you repeat. And this is like literally how humans learn, and also how humans like actually make projects that are meaningful. So improving at something is simple, but that doesn't make it easy, as we kind of saw here. Hopefully this saves you a lot of time spinning your wheels in endless learning loops and gets you actually doing the thing so you can actually make progress this year. If you like this post, you might also like my journey from software engineer to entrepreneur and back again, and learning about my cycles doing that. My software engineer interview guide here, which is like all the best knowledge I've gotten, all the tips, all the recommendations I've got from years of interviewing and getting jobs at like big tech, startups in the industry, stuff like that. And then finally, stop wasting your time on bad startup ideas, which is really about how to identify and decide early on if a project you're working on, a cycle you're working on isn't quite the best fit, and if you can kind of do better by working on something else. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.